I
So
love it.
thanks. It's I'm getting used to it. I'm having
Like I said, welcome to the dark side of being a redhead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's a thing.
I have experimented with all different colors, kind of. And I just felt like I'd been blonde for a while. I needed a change. So I was like, just do it. And I did.
Nice.
I have some days where I'm like, no.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm a blonde at heart, but
my guy, he's about to turn into a redhead, and I can't wait to see him as a redhead because I've never seen him with any other color hair. I'm like, gonna be a redhead.
Neat.
Anywho, sorry. Thank you, Ashley, for joining us today. Sorry, got in a hair topic, but as we do, I'm so excited for this episode. I follow you on Instagram. I share a lot of your reels and stuff because you're hilarious, and I want to say you're the first military spouse comedian that I've seen.
I've never seen one.
Right. So I think you've paved the way.
Well, there was a woman, I can't think of her name right now, that I think it was about 10 years ago. She used to do a lot of really funny jokes on different bases. But also there's a program now called the Armed Services Arts Partnership, which is super cool. And it's free for military dependents, spouses, if your parents were in. And they do comedy classes. So we're pumping out a lot of military spouse comedians now, and active duty and retirees and stuff like that too. So it's super, super neat. So hopefully we'll have more.
I love that because military life is so hard. And I always say, if you're not laughing, you're crying. So you might as well laugh.
Yeah.
And make a joke out of it, because sometimes you tell people the things that go on and they're like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, I wish I was. I wish I was. So anyway, I would love if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became a military spouse, how you became a comedian, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. I'm my name is Ashley Gutermuth.
Okay, that's how you say it. Say it again.
Right. Gutermuth.
Okay.
It rhymes with tooth. People will say Guttermouth, which is fine because it's too hard of a last name. So I'll accept any pronunciation. But people, sometimes I won't get booked for jobs, like for comedy jobs, because they'll say, oh, her last name's Guttermouth. She's just going to be a filthy, there's this preconceived notion that women are always just really dirty comedians, and that's not fair. But they'll think, oh, she's a woman and her last name's Guttermouth. I'm not going to have her because she's filthy. And it's so funny because I'm so repressed. I don't swear. I don't talk about any sex stuff. You're repressed when you call it sex stuff. You're like, you're good. So yeah, it was my real name. I'm a military spouse. Been one for a few years now. My husband is a pilot. He's in the Air Force. And I live on an Air Force base, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I've done comedy longer than I've done that I've talked about the military spouse side of it. And I wanted to talk about it. But I would have people tell me, well, there's no audience for that. There's not going to be enough people that will want to hear it. And, and also we got to the point where my husband, he'll probably retire in a few years. And I thought, why not? Let's see if let's torch this thing. Let's make it go up in flames. So I can't get him fired at this point. Let's see what we can do.
I was going to ask you, because I mean, there's always these limits as a military spouse, these rules, they're not really spoken, they're unspoken rules, I think.
Sometimes they're spoken too loudly.
No, that's true. It's you can't do this, you can't do that. You kind of just sit there and, I always say the dinners, it's just sit there and smile. And you don't want to get your husband in trouble. God forbid they call his commander,
Right.
I think it's not as bad. My dad was military. I think it was way worse in my mom's time when she was in military, in active duty military stuff. But now I still notice it. Granted, my husband, well, he was chair force. He's now space force.
Oh, neat, cool.
Yeah, so cool. But we've never lived on a typical base, so I haven't had that full-on military spouse experience, like living on base and everything is base centric, and your commander's living down the street or whatever.
I know, isn't that weird? That's
Yeah,
a
I never lived on
weird
base.
part of it. You've never lived on base either?
Mm-mm.
I love living on base. And in fact, I'm a little stressed about when we can't live on bases anymore, even though I make fun of it. And there's there's definitely stuff to joke about with it because there's a lot of silliness.
Sure.
But I love living on base. It's so easy. He's got a short commute to work. It's like 7 minutes. I don't have to if he deploys, I've got all like the things that I need, or if he's TDY for a long time, I've got, people that know what's happening. I'm not completely isolated. Left to my own devices, I probably wouldn't leave my house. I'm a little hermit. So it's good that there's some things
That's
in
shocking
place.
because you seem so extrovert, but I think that's how it goes. People who always,
Traveling is hard, like getting on airplanes and driving. I got into a really bad car accident a few years ago out in Washington State coming back from a show. And ever since then, it's been really hard for me to drive. I don't like to do it at night because that's when I got hit and the car got totaled. But so it's just like, so I try to stay, in my own little thing. But I need to get out more. That's something I should do. But I like living on base. There's a funny thing about living on base where a lot of times they're in remote places. So like where I live now, we're surrounded by farms. We're kind of like out in the country. But there's something about if you go to like visit a city and then you drive through the gates on base and you give the gate guard your ID and they wave you on and you're just like, oh, I can relax. You're like within the fence. I don't know what that is. But it's like, oh, I'm home. Okay.
No, I because growing up, we lived on base all the time, and you have this built-in community. Everyone is in the same boat. We lived on base. Well, we lived on an English military base this past year, and then we lived on for like 2 years. We lived on base. Well, it wasn't really a base. Rachel probably knows. He was stationed at LA Air Force Base.
Oh, yeah. That one is crazy. LA Air Force, because the amount, like I've had friends that they only go to their job. It's only 2 bases that they go back and forth from, like Washington D.C. to LA Air Force Base, right? So
Yep.
there you go. You just go back and forth. And the thing is, in order to live in Los Angeles and those that like it's so expensive. I remember they had to get like help from their families and to be able to afford anything at all. And then DC is not cheap at all.
No, it's it's like the 2 most expensive. Well, they are both very expensive, and DC is so spread out with so many bases. Like you have so many people at the Pentagon, but there's no like base for the Pentagon. Well, there is, but it's not like, I don't know. It's all everyone.
Yeah, that's the Arlington
off base. Well, at least in our case, for what my husband did, all of our friends lived off base. But yeah, I miss it. Like yesterday, it took almost 2 hours yesterday to get to the base. But it's just like when I get on base, I just feel like it's comforting to me because it's just like what I know, and I know where the commissary is, and I know where the post office is, and I know where the library is, and I don't know, but I hear you. I hear you on that. So, but yeah, like I said, LA Air Force Base, like the housing at LA Air Force Base is separate.
It's
Crazy.
amazing
I
that's
finally saw the housing.
What's it like?
Yeah. It's like off on the side of the road. Isn't that the housing that was like? Because you have the Air Force Base that has like that weird gate that's like curved. I don't know if it's like if that was the gate you guys had, but then there's like housing like that's like cookie cutter housing, like 3 or 4 blocks away.
Yeah, so there's
like housing.
LA, the main base, which is like 7 buildings, and then you have the housing, which is in San Pedro.
Yeah,
and then they have that Fort MacArthur with housing there, and then you drive up 1.5 miles, and then there's more housing. But it's and I will say, like, San Pedro is we called it the butthole of LA.
Oh no.
I was there last weekend. Yes.
It's gotten better. Okay, before anyone like comes at me, when we were stationed there, it was when we were newly married, so 10 years ago. So it was 10 years ago. So a lot of things could have changed. but
I don't think it did.
it hasn't
I've-
changed.
I don't think it did.
So it's an interesting thing about military bases is they used to be bigger. So like, for example, I lived on Warner Robins Air Force Base, and that's in the middle of Georgia. They literally call it Middle Georgia, and there's 2 roads, and that's it, and a Red Lobster. So there's tons of stuff to do, and but you can tell where there used to be. So there's a main highway, and across that highway, you can see houses that were clearly old base housing, and the way that how big the base used to be, which is already it's a huge base anyway, but how big it was. It used to go like across the highway and then encompass most of this town. But as base reduction acts come in, and then they shrink and shrink and shrink, and then so I think that that's how things like that happen, where they end up putting houses so super far away.
Yep.
Um,
And then, yeah, before you know it, it's very far away from the
I
actual.
would say when I was leaving Okinawa, they were taking away part of the base and giving it back to, like, I guess Japan or like the city. So they were starting to do that when I left.
Yeah, it's interesting how it all works out. I don't know. I lived on Bowling Air Force Base in DC, and so that's one
where
of the.
we just came from.
Is that where you just came from?
Well, before England, yeah.
I just went back and visited. When you were there, did they have the solar panels in the commissary parking lot?
Yes, but it's like, are those the parking spots?
They're like parking spots, and they're covering them.
I thought they were parking coverage. I didn't know they were solar panels.
Yeah, I guess on top is all solar panels, so it's kind of like a cool thing. It's so funny to me because bowling was when I was there. There's so many like generals and admirals that are on that base. You know that is the base to go to for thrift store stuff. They have a great thrift shop. Anywhere where there's fancy people, you go to that thrift shop, and they would, as soon as the generals would retire, you'd see them. They'd throw their shoulder boards, their $100 shoulder boards at the thrift shop, and I got fancy knives. I got all kinds of cool stuff from when they moved. So check that out. But I like living on Bowling. There's so many different bases in Washington, D.C. Like you're saying, the Pentagon. You can go to Arlington, which has one of the greatest. It's called an MEX and NEX, a naval exchange and marine exchange, and it's got like 3 levels.
And we were in the DC area for 7. Well, we were out west for 4 years and then came in for 3 years. We lived in Alexandria, but my husband was at Bowling. Never made it there. So I wish, but to be fair, we lived right next to Belvoir, which Belvoir, beautiful brand new commissary. I think the exchange was pretty new too. So
I call it Fort Belvoir. Everyone else pronounces it Belvoir, but it is so fancy. That is where, if you're trying to get somebody to join the army, you take them to that base, not any other army base, because this one is so fancy and nice. And the houses are nice. I mean, there's stuff on the water. I stayed at the fam camp there. While we were waiting for our house to be open at Bowling, we stayed at the fam camp, and it's on the Potomac River. Like you woke up every day to this beautiful sight, and it was just that is an amazing base. That is a hidden gem, I think.
Wow.
for sure.
I don't want to look up photos now.
Yeah, you should. Well, that's like, we just love the whole DC area. I know it's like love hate. A lot of people either love it or they hate it. We loved it. That's where we would like to retire, and chances are we'll wind up back there, like I said, because we do the teeter totter between LA and DC. So yeah, that's yeah. We
Wait,
were.
is that what you guys want to retire at?
DC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you? Yep. What about you guys, Ashley? Because you said you guys are like close to retirement.
Well, he's extended. He can do a couple more years. We're trying to figure out what is next, and I'll tell you what, that is hard. It's an everyday discussion of where do we want to live, and then you look at, okay, where are there amenities? Where is there a VA hospital? You start to look at these things. I for comedy would like to live in New York City at least a bit of the time. But I also like DC. but it's so hard. We don't have anything pulling us in one direction or another. Like there's no like, okay, we're going to go move back to wherever family is. It's just a blank slate of 50
Mhm.
states. And you're like, that's nice, but also where do we go? And also my husband is a full-time reservist, which so he wears a uniform every day, goes in just like that. He's always been a reservist, but with that, even though we move every 2 years, they don't get a terminal move back to wherever it is.
Oh,
So
really?
Oh wow.
so wherever you finish out is where you're done. And so I just give away furniture all the time. I'm like, because I can't move it, and I'm not paying. There's no way I'm paying $30,000
Mhm.
for a moving company to come and set my stuff on fire.
Yep. You might as well just get rid of it and buy all
Right.
new.
That's what I'm doing. It's like, take it, thrift shop, take it.
Yep. See, now I never thought the whole like thrift shop thing. I never thought to look.
Thrift shops are great. I
I
mean, the
thrift
one we
shops.
have here is awesome.
I never checked the base thrift shop though, so
Yeah.
I'll need to check. But I know we kind of got on a tangent because we were going on how you became a Milspouse and then a comedian, and because he's close to retirement, you could set it on fire.
Right. A lot of fire analogies today.
The hair.
Right. But yeah, so it's been a fun thing. I have always wanted to be a comedian. So I've done voiceover work, and I've done a few things for the Air Force. There's certain bases you call, and it'll say press 9 for battle watch, and that's my voice. So I do things like that. But mostly I just want to be funny as possible. I want to go to different bases, and I'm trying to get in with the armed forces entertainment, and hopefully they can bring me out to various bases and can have a good time.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, where have you like when did you start? I mean, because I just started noticing you, I think a year or so ago. When did you really become like known for your like military jokes and things like that?
That's
Like,
it's been about 9 months of doing that, starting the military stuff, and then just trying to be as much of a troublemaker as possible, really. Uh, and I've never been a good military wife. I've always been bad at it. I have literally physically picked up 2 wing commanders. Uh, just went up to him in like a bear hug and picked him up. And they were big. They're big guys. They were like 6'3". And I was, who doesn't like that? Their wives. They don't like that at all. You want to be careful with that. I'm always pulling pranks or making jokes or trying to get into trouble in some way. You were talking about going to balls or dinners, formal dinners, and having to sit there and behave. I just don't. And I didn't even before I was out with the military stuff. I remember I was introduced as somebody else's wife once. Oh, you know what I do? This is actually something that when my husband fills out the formal dinner paperwork and puts my name on it, he always makes me a doctor. And I'm not a doctor. I have not a doctor at all. But he puts it a doc, and I always forget that he's done it until I go to pick up my name badge and it says Dr. Ashley Gutermuth. And then I got to think, okay, what kind of doctor am I today? And it's got to be something that if something actually happens, they won't come to me because I would have to follow that through.
is there a doctor in the house?
Yep. Just like
Ashley.
right here. Can you believe it? She does a lot of things, that lady.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades.
Oh.
But yeah, so I just started pumping out the videos for those and and I would have military spouses send me messages and say that they thought it was funny and it was helping them in some way. So I like to continue that on. And what's neat about the comedy videos and the stand-up is it allows me to do other things and help people, like especially my Instagram stories. Instagram makes it the easiest for me to help people, but I can post things in there like resources and scholarships and okay, here's an employer that wants to hire people, and I've gotten to meet with presidents or vice presidents of recruiting because they want to hire more military spouses and they want to know how to do it. So working with those programs and trying to help with, there's a military spouse tax credit bill that's being introduced that hopefully will pass this year, where companies will be given, if they hire a military spouse and they keep them for a year, they get $2,500. And
Oh,
it's a one-time payment. And the whole idea is to cover that onboarding training. And companies, a lot of times they'll say, well, we would love to hire you, but you're going to leave in 2 years. Maybe not. But also, the average length of any employee now is about 2.5 years. So you're going to lose anybody. Why not get somebody really good? And so
That's well, you just said you're like, I'm not a good military spouse, but like you're doing a lot. So you are a good military spouse. You're trying to make it a better, but maybe you're just not the most well behaved.
I'm definitely not the most well behaved. I will do whatever I can to try to be silly in some way. Oh yeah, I definitely, we sing the Air Force song at the end of every event, and I scream that song. I everybody else like mumbles it. Every time I yell that sucker.
You know it, because I still don't know it. I know the first few lines. So
well, I mean, you got to learn the Space Force song now, which is Star Wars.
Star Wars theme song.
Yeah. You're just humming. Da, 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 da.
There's so many. I mean, we make jokes about it. My husband jokes about it. It's just a, and I there are no words, I guess. We're still kind of in shock, but we're still waiting for his lightsaber to come in. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, that'll be nice when that comes in. But it'll be OCPs, or they'll have that color of the uniform.
Yes, well, in the Star Trek uniform, that looks like the Star Trek. But it's funny, people don't, especially here in England or even people in America. We went out to the bar. We just came back a week ago, but we went out one night and I was like, oh, my husband's Space Force. What? That's a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's so cool. Did he go to space? No, he's not
Nope.
an astronaut.
He's not an astronaut. That's
there's a difference.
But that's with everything, isn't it? Your husband's in the Air Force. He's a pilot?
Mm-hmm.
No. Would you believe that there needs to be other jobs, and they're all equally as important?
Yep. So it's funny how I know they're like, oh, they always ask that. Is he a pilot? No. Is he an astronaut? No. None of those.
Yeah.
None of those. So, what in your military, so what has been the craziest thing to happen to you during being a Milspouse that you just maybe were shocked or?
Well, I was in the commissary once, and there was a woman that had like 9 kids, but they were all older. Like they were, some were 17, 15, down to like maybe 5. And I remember she came up to me and she said, "You don't work. I need you to come help babysit." And the person, and I said, I can't, I'm too busy. And she said, "With what?" And she blocked me with her shopping cart. And I was like, what is happening? And she said, "The person that was in your husband's job before him helped us fix our roof." And I was like, "We're not going to help you fix your roof. I'm not." So that level of like the pushy, there's certain military spouses that are used to people helping them, and really just taking advantage of people that don't set clear boundaries, or are uncomfortable, rightfully so, because they've got somebody like coming at them, asking them to do something, and basically making it, like, "Oh, you don't have." So I have a son, I have a stepson, but he's older. At the time, he probably was 13 or something like that. But, in her mind, 1 kid, my God, she could do that in her sleep. She could take care of 1 kid in her sleep. So, that was funny. That's something that's always stuck out in my mind of like, okay, that's to be able to meet those types of people that are that will just take and take and take.
I think that's called a agenda, but
it might be. Fortunately, I don't meet that. We make fun of them, but I don't meet that many of them. Most of the military spouses are cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and most of them I know work or do a side hustle or
they do something.
they do something and they're active or in their community and with their kids. So I've never actually truly met a dependent in the wild. I mean, I've seen them, but I haven't truly known a dependent. Sorry, my cat.
I've known 2, not gonna lie.
You've known 2. What happened with yours?
They were just, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude or mean. They just did absolutely nothing. Like, they had kids. They passed their kids along to other people to take care of them. They sat at home. They didn't have a job or anything. Their house was a wreck, like hoarding wreck. And I'm like, you give your kids to someone else during the day and you sit at home. You don't work. I'm just like, you could do something.
Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? The different types of people and the way that, to me, military spouses are stronger than non-military spouses because you have to be. You have to be able to up and move. You have to have these no notice deployments. You
change of
how about
plans.
change of plans? The regularly, like the grocery store where I live, the commissary. When I post things about the commissary, people will say, well, why don't you just go to a regular grocery store? Well, okay. 1, it's slightly discounted. And 2, the closest grocery store to me is like, I think 30 minutes away. So hello, kitty cat. Oh my goodness. Let your kitty go. Your kitty wants to talk about military spouses. We should bring Bruce in. But it's super far away. You have bases that are in remote places, certainly in like California and places like that where they're in the middle of nowhere. That's all you have. And then you go and it's like, oh my God, all this cheese is moldy. Like, what is happening? But they have to be more resilient. Some have an easier time of it than others. I think it depends on sort of how you grew up. If you grew up thinking that this was going to be easy, and
I mean, and it's not. I think it's funny because the whole dependent thing, they do exist. My friend group, they don't, but but we always surround ourselves with people like-minded. But it's not a job for the faint of heart. Like, it's not this easy. Oh, I married you for the TRICARE bennies and for on-base privileges, and it's going to be this easy, wonderful life. And it's like, no, it's not. Most of the time, I'm on my own, and I am in charge of everything. And we all know, like, when they're gone, everything breaks, everything falls apart.
Everything goes to crap.
It never is just the smooth, like, oh, he was gone, and then the whole reintegration and then moving, like. Majority every time we move, he's always on a TDY or has to. This last time he had to finish school, so I did it pretty much all by myself. I've done the last few by myself. So I mean, it's not this easy. I think it's glamorized as like the whole, like, well, you sit at home and eat bonbons, and I'm like, oh, I wish. I wish like.
And there's so many things there's the things you have to do and accomplish. And then there's also the worrying. Like, there's so much worrying that goes along with it. Like, how many people have to regularly go and get their wills made?
Yeah, that's true.
Stuff like that.
And that takes a toll. The emotion, you take on, especially, everyone else's emotions, especially when they're deployed or TDY, and then having to worry about when they are deployed and if they're in a dangerous area. And then you have your family, like always like, oh, I saw this on the news. Yeah. You're like, so it's, I mean, I was very fortunate that one time my husband was deployed. He wasn't in a horrible area, but I knew he was pretty much safe and he wasn't in the line of duty. He was kind of behind. So I even almost feel like I am an intruder Milspouse because I'm like, he's never been on a 365 to Iraq or
no, don't put yourself down. We can't have any of that crap in here. No. You gotta, like, there's certain, like, okay, I've got a patch back there that says I deployed to Camp Cupcake, which is what they call Al Udeid. That's in Qatar, and it's a really rich country, but they still have things happening. And, my husband was there, and sometimes he would have all the gear on and things like that. For the most part, safe. I remember him sending me a message. He was like, do you want me to tell you if there's something explodes or like there's a mortar attack or something. Do you want me to tell you I'm okay? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess you could, but I don't like, I'm probably, I was kind of just like, I don't know, how do you process that? You're like, I've always said to him that if he was captured, this is obviously an outlandish thing to say. If he was captured, that I would gear up and come and try to find him, which would just, that would just really hamper the efforts of the United States to save him. But I remember I told a 4-star general once, I was at some breakfast, and he said, "Thank you for supporting your husband." And I said, "Sir, I'd go to the jungle. If you need us to, I'll go to the jungle for him." And when we walked away, my husband was like, "We're not doing anything in the jungle." I was like, "That's right."
You never know. We could be.
I'm always over the top enthusiastic to be helpful without thinking it through. Which brings me to my latest adventure is I'm trying to go to boot camp.
I
And
saw that. I was going to ask you about that.
it's so funny. So there's not enough people. We don't have, recruiting numbers are too low. Okay.
Okay.
So there's not enough people that want to join. There's different reasons for that, but there's I think that one of the reasons, and one of the questions that comes at me all the time, is we don't know what it's like. So I always try to show ceremonies. I try to show like all those really neat things so people can see it. And they always seem so appreciative because they're like, "Oh, we had no idea. We thought only dumb people joined the military. They couldn't do anything else." And you're like, "No, oh my goodness." So, I mean, you can be 18 years old. The Navy will hire you to be a to handle nuclear reactors. It's a long
Wow.
school, but and there's like a 50 grand bonus for it, things like that. So if you're super smart and you don't want to go to college, there you go, Kate's in. I put out a thing that said, "Hey, if it helps with recruiting numbers, let's put me through boot camp and film it. And you can watch me, if you can see if a silly comedian can do it, you can do it too. You can also watch me slowly collapse uh, and be yelled at." So I was trying to, I put out a thing with that. And then I got a message from one of the Army commanders, and he said, "I think we can make this happen." So we're rolling with it.
Oh, wow.
That'll be really cool. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good if we could get it together. If we, I'm sure they're going to make me wave my life away. But just on insurance paperwork and things like that. I'm willing. It's 10 weeks. Boot camp is 10 weeks. And I said, I'm willing to do the full 10 weeks, but you have to get public affairs in there, filming it and releasing it week by week. Cause it's got to make sense. It's got to be showing people what it's really like. So we're trying to figure it out.
That could be like a good show, like a reality.
Yeah, that would be a good reality show. Yeah,
that would be a really good reality show. Like every week, you check in and see.
Yeah.
Because I want to watch that. Like,
I think it'll be good. I mean, there's just showing people what something is like, and showing that it's good. You being in the military can be helpful to your family. It's a good environment and things, and trying to, there's issues, but we're working to make things better. And it's a good community to be a part of. So that's what I want to show. And the Army was the first one that reached out. I was willing to do any of the services. I think the Marines don't really have trouble recruiting right now. That's at least what I've been told. But, everybody else is hurting. So let's get them. Get them in. Let's have fun.
I look forward to seeing that. So have you gotten any like flashback though from when any of your comedy or jokes, like have you had any of that yet or no?
Do you mean from the military itself, or from?
I mean, it sounds like the military's at this point, the Army, they're very much incorporating.
Yes, definitely. I get flashback from people that think that they're tough. They're not, they've never actually been in the military, but they've seen Black Hawk Down, that kind of guy. I get that kind of guy that harasses me all the time. And I get people that don't like me because of how I look and whatever notion that means to them. I get people that see that my video might have a decent amount of views, and they don't like that. So they think, well, why is that not happening to me? Or for whatever reason that is offensive to them. So those type of people come after me. But the military doesn't. They are like giddy school kids. They're just like, oh my God, what is she up to? And people come up to me all the time, and it's great, and tell me that they really like it. But there's 4 stars and 3-star generals that have seen my stuff, and they just think it's funny, and I don't. There's definitely a fine line. So I have people that will send me ideas, and their ideas are way over the line. That gets to the point where it's not funny anymore, and you're actually just, you're making fun of somebody for how they look or for something they can't control. And none of that works for me. I don't like any of that stuff. And I'm also never, a lot of my videos are about giving bad advice. I don't give any advice that's going to get anybody hurt. So I would never tell anybody to ram the gate, walk over the red line on the tarmac out on the flight line, because that's where they shoot you. They're going to put you on the ground. I'm not going to tell anybody to do anything like that. So it's just, silliness of things that people won't actually do.
And
it is real. Yeah. And the
it's
things that I like, actually, where I've told people to park in general and admirals parking spaces, as long as they, it's because it says admin, ADM. It looks like admin. And I say, if you've ever used an Excel spreadsheet, you're qualified to park there. So I tell people to park. If somebody does park there, it's not a huge deal. Yeah, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a big thing, but there's other things that definitely, I would never tell somebody to jump a gate or, yell back at security forces. None of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you probably would have those people who.
Yes.
Who would?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't need that.
No, everything of yours is just like, oh my gosh, that's so relatable. Oh my gosh. Yep. For sure.
Thank
So,
you.
because you said, so how long have you said you were Milspouse a few years ago. Have you ever had military experience prior to that? Like parents or anything?
My grandfather was in the Marines, and my dad was in the Army, and my son's in the Navy. So I'm just
so
surrounded.
you are very well versed in.
It's just surrounded by it. Just we got them all. So that's why I have to go to Army boot camp, right? Because that's we gotta, we got to get them all in.
So okay, I know I was gonna ask you well, because you obviously you're a comedian, a Milspouse, you're a runner, right?
I am.
I always see you run and you collect trash, right?
I do. Saying I collect trash makes me sound like a hoarder. I pick up litter to recycle. She collects trash. Everybody, look at it.
Sorry, you pick up litter.
Litter. There we go. I do, and that one of the reasons why I do that is because of that car accident that I had. Because I ended up, the airbag smacked me in the head. They told me not to jiggle my brain. They said I had a traumatic brain injury from it, and I started, like, I'll mix up words and get brain fog and things like that, and lost some hearing. But they said you have to keep moving, so I would run much more slowly, and I was like, what else can I do? I've ran every day for almost 8 years.
Oh, wow.
I've not. It's at least a mile a day. There's a club, Run Streakers International. You have to run at least a mile a day for a whole year. At the end of the year, as long as you've done that every day, then you're in the club. And so I've done that for almost 8 years now, and I usually do about 3 to 4 miles every day. And they're not super fast, but they, it's just getting it done at this point. So I started picking up the trash, and it's I guess at this point I'm over 1,000 pounds of litter that I've been able to throw away and recycle. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's great that you do that. And so I was going to ask, what is the craziest litter item you found, or trash item?
Well, I guess it depends on how old your audience is, because the most disgusting, craziest thing I found is a not safe for work item. But depending on what, if you guys want to hear what that is, I'll tell you. Otherwise, you could message me later. We can go on to a different thing.
Yeah, we can. We can always edit it out.
All right. The most disgusting thing I ever found was called a Tenga egg, and I found it on base. Someone threw it out of their car, I presume. And a Tenga egg is a male single-use sex egg. When you might be saying to yourself, "What is that? What even is that?" Yeah, I didn't know either, and it resulted in some unfortunate googling. Uh, it basically just looks like it. You know those Easter eggs that have candy in them? That's what it
Yeah.
looks like. And I was like, but the inside is like rubbery. And so I picked it up and I was like, oh, it's Easter soon. Here, this is neat. I found an Easter egg. And it kind of looks like those things that you would use to clean your keyboard out of like dirt, like the
I like
spongy
the
stuff.
gel.
Yes.
Okay.
So I went home on my Instagram and I made like a little story and I was holding it real close to my face, which is what you should do with litter. And somebody Googled the serial numbers and they were like, Ashley, burn your hands. So oh my God. So gross. I didn't even, I immediately threw it in the yard and I was like, I don't even know how do I throw this away? I buried it for a while. It was just like a month where it was buried in my front yard. So if anybody did come that had seen the video, they're like, well, she's just saving it. And I could see it in the mulch. This creep. And they're like 30 some dollars for a pack of 6. You get one use. I cannot stress this enough. One use? What?
I am.
It's more than you bargained for, Kate. I know. I'm sorry.
I've never heard of anything like
I love the stories.
Oh, it is horrific.
I thought it would be like a condom or something. Or
something. Those are everyday occurrences. I don't pick up stuff like that. I wouldn't have picked this up if I had known what it was full of. I would not. Thank God I wear gloves. Oh, but I find money. I've found security forces, or military police, depending on what branch you're in. They have little folders in their cars, the cop cars, that have extra keys in there, and they have like things to do in an accident and all kinds of like maintenance stuff for the cars. And I found one of those in the middle of the road. And I called security forces and I said, hey, I found your keys to the car and I found your folder. And this guy who was like he just like wasn't all that interested. He was like, what do you mean you found it? He was like, you found it in your house? And I was like, no. What do you think I'm doing? Just inviting the cops over? Like, no. So that was an interesting one. I found somebody's, this was at McCord out in Washington State. They had dumped all of their private documents. So all social security numbers, there was x-rays, teeth x-rays and stuff, awards, all kinds of military decorations, important things. I think a DD-214 was in there, all that kind of stuff. And it was 2 large paper grocery bags. And I started Googling, trying to figure out, like, what is the deal? Did somebody steal this stuff? And then, because it was in a ditch. And I ended up, that base has what's called a trash cop, because to avoid people dumping, they will, track the people down that are dropping stuff on base because it's such a huge base. And so him and I started sleuthing. Now, here's an issue that happened with that. When I Googled the name, I thought the guy was dead. I thought the person who was on all that information was dead. So I told the trash cop, the investigator, that the man had passed away. And then that guy called and found his wife and was like, I'm sorry about your husband passing away. And she was like, he's not dead. So he wasn't dead. Turns out he had dementia and he had driven on base to go golfing and had thought that he was taking it to where it should be, but he hadn't. He dropped it off in a ravine, and the wife didn't want the stuff back, so I burned it all. I didn't know what else, because it was all like it was like mortgage documents and things like that, and that's what the trash investigator said. He said, all right, just get rid of it, they don't want it. It's like, oh wow. So that was another weird one.
That is.
I'm
also
shocked.
The fact that there's a trash cop.
Trash cop.
You said trash cop.
Trash cop. Yeah, he needs a good song, doesn't he? It's like
no, we had that on. I think Lejeune had trash cops too, because there was a problem with people dumping stuff too.
Yeah,
and so they had one there.
What would they call it? Rubbish. What rubbish? Oh my gosh.
Oh, look who's in England.
What do you call it? Waste management security or something?
Yeah. I feel like that kind of like I would watch a show where that guy would just like with a montage, he puts the aviators on and he's just, sees a refrigerator in the middle of the woods and he's like, I'm coming for you.
Or going through the trap. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
just
would
finding
actually,
names on
That'd
Amazon
be
boxes.
interesting, I feel like.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think you have another, like, I think that could be another thing.
That'll be my next subgenre, trash
Yeah.
talk.
Trash
Uh,
talk.
Now, is everything you find like on basis?
So when I travel for comedy, I still pick up litter. The one of my things is to do things in streaks and never stop them until I die, I guess. And so I have the running streak, and then I have the trash picking up streak, and so that's been almost 3 years. So whenever I go to other cities, I pick up trash there. So one of the hard things is New York City. When I'm in New York City and I
Oh,
pick up trash, even though I don't like, I go up all the time. If I have to stay overnight for some reason, it's hard because one, people make money off there's machines where you can put cans in and they
mhm.
make money off of it. So I'm not going to take somebody's like livelihood from them so that I can pick up litter. Oh, look at this lady picking up litter. All right, I would like that money to eat. The other thing is there like there's needles and stuff like that I don't want to pick up. There was one time I was in New York City. This was this year. There was one footprint that went for blocks, and it was just one footprint, one bloody footprint. One the next morning they washed it away. And I was like, what happened to the guy? Where'd he go? Yeah, I run to New York City. It's a nightmare. I do love New York City. I haven't had any like safety issues up there, but that bloody footprint thing really stuck with me.
Don't come to LA. Then. There's safety issues here.
I was in Los Angeles because I did a show at the Laugh Factory
Oh, okay.
in May. And it's so hard in Los Angeles because you have to drive everywhere. Everything is so
Everywhere.
darn
And there's
spread
no
out.
If you want to Uber,
transportation.
it's like $100 one way for an Uber, so there's no point of Ubering.
Yeah, things are out of control.
Yeah.
Out of control.
Back in LA too, and I'm like, oh. I'm hoping DC or the other one is Kirkland.
New Mexico. They only want you. They were like, you will either be in a sandy dry place, or Washington D.C. Like you got no. That's the only tree options you get.
England is something that just was like some weird. My husband was in literally the right time at the right place, got the right phone call, and it just, it's not your typical. But yeah.
Awesome. What part of England are you in? I lived in the West Midlands for a while.
So we are. I'm still trying to like figure out. We were. Right now we're like half hour outside of London. We're in Surrey, Windlesham, Surrey. Maybe Brandon, you can edit that out.
Edit out exactly. Here's my address and my mother's maiden name and my last four of my social.
I live here. Before we were out, kind of, where Swindon.
Yeah, so you're around that area. So cool.
We lived. My husband went to the Defense Academy outside of Swindon, so we lived there. But it was like farm.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's been a great experience. We've loved it. So no complaints. I've always wanted to live abroad. So
I think it's great, and it's a great way to do it. I don't know. Have you encountered any people from England or Wales or Scotland that have made fun of the way you say mirror? Because I got that all the time. Because I would say mirror. I changed it to this day. They'd be like mirror, 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 because I wouldn't say mirror. So they would make fun of that. It also, I grew up in Pennsylvania. And they'd say, where are you from? And I would say Pennsylvania. And they'd say, where the vampires come from? And I would say, nope, that's Transylvania.
Which is really nice.
That's a real thing. So
it's a real thing. Did you guys say yuns?
Yins. Oh yeah, we're yinsers. You got the yins. We say red up, which means clean. Wash. I mean, I don't say this. Like my grandma still talks like that. But
wait, this is all Pennsylvania stuff?
That's Pittsburghese, they call it.
I have not heard some of this. I'm from Delaware, and some of the stuff I have not heard.
It's a Pennsylvania. We lived in Tyrone, this small town Tyrone outside of Altoona for a few years. And yeah, we got all the, like, Pennsylvania is it's one of the 50 states. I will say California is another one of those, like, it just is different. It's different.
Oh yeah.
Not good, not bad. It's just, it's a different,
We put French fries on salads, Rachel. That's what you need to know.
do, but I have
Wait,
to say,
I've done that. I've done that before.
it's so good. My friend who's from Pennsylvania, she's like, and I was like, what? I did it. And I was like, oh, that's a game changer.
Mhm.
French fries on salad. It is.
We
so
are
good.
innovative. That's what we're known for.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like Pennsylvania. I have no qualms against it. The town we lived in was a little backwards, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, there you have it.
Anywho, thank you for coming on. This has been fun.
Thank you for having me.
Keep on doing your awesome reels.
We're gonna keep chugging it on. Let's blow this up. See if we can make some change. Woo!
Yeah. I see. You're a great Milspouse.
Change is good.
Yeah.
You say that until I'm on the news because I pantsed like the the head of the Space Force or the head of some National Defense University. Like, got your cummerbund, sir. Look at this.
Hey, it'll make news, and then people be like, "Oh, I'll get people more intrigued about military life." And
that's right. We gotta think outside the box at this point. It's not working. What we're doing is not working.
You are 100% right. So
I have to say,
go ahead, Rachel.
I was going to say, I got a text message from a recruiter yesterday, and the text message did not make me want to join the military.
Did you?
Number.
Yeah, the recruiters. There's some really funny recruiters on Instagram. There's like Staff Sergeant Butterworth, I think, from Langley, and they're people that they are trying to do like outside of the box thinking kind of things. Mm-hmm. But they're all, it must be so hard to be a recruiter.
Yeah,
it must be so hard.
But see, I think these recruiters need to step up on what you're offering because you're willing to go to boot camp, which I mean,
take advantage
of it. Because like, I know for me, I could never do boot camp. I couldn't. I for the life of me cannot do a pull-up. Never have. I've tried. I tried doing strength training. I cannot. I would fail. So
I could do that part since I'm a power lifter, but I would talk back because I have a sarcastic mouth. So
you're sassy.
I am.
Look at that.
And then I would get yelled at.
I assume that, I don't know, I'm pretty good at when people give me instructions and then going for it, but I also I assume there's going to be some looks to the camera where I'm just like, what have I done?
I'm telling you, okay, whoever's listening, this needs to be a reality show. I really think this has to be a reality show, and I think then it could go viral, and then that's how you get more people to join in.
Yeah,
I'm already picturing it. Like, right now I'm watching Alone. I don't know if anyone watches Alone, where it's on the History Channel. You throw these like naturist people out by themselves.
Oh no.
They have to survive for as long as they can on 10 items they brought. And it's just, I'm thinking of something like that, but it's boot camp,
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think that it would work. You look at the amount of people that join because they watch Top Gun or that new movie Purple Hearts, where the Marine gets into a relationship over TRICARE kind of stuff.
Marriage.
Yeah, so people that kind of stuff works.
It does.
And I would like there to be more military families and people to join and to like it because I like it. So let's do it.
I do, and as much as I poke fun at a lot of things and complain, my therapist always says it can be and. It's not or. It's you can love it and you can hate it. It's not it's an and, not an or. It can be both. You can
It's a love-hate relationship.
It is a love-hate.
Every military spouse knows it's a love-hate relationship.
It is like. There's sacrifices, there's the suck, but then there's also like the amazing friends and the travel and the opportunities I've had where, people I've gone to my small town high school or stuff, they're still in the same town and haven't lived outside of the confines of, Bellevue, Nebraska. So it just, I'm really giving away a lot of my information.
Just Kate, what I'm just telling you, just put your address on there and your phone number and then
Everything else.
your routing number for your bank account, and just I think it's fine. It's
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
it's okay. Here's the thing. When people do not like I've had people take my husband's official military bio and start pasting it everywhere on things, and I don't show his face. So I was a bit annoyed about that. But people don't usually do any extra effort to scam. Like you got to really spoon feed it to them, I think sometimes. So don't worry about it. You're okay.
I do have one other question, because we were talking about Top Gun being very in right now and making people like, oh, like they got the stash. Did your husband grow out the stash?
Oh my God, no. Otherwise, he would be my ex-husband.
Yes.
No.
Okay. So many people I know did grow it out, and I'm like, no, get rid of it, please.
Heck no. And he tells people that he doesn't want one either. You know, if he came and he was like, oh, I really want to do this, you know, all right, fine. But he doesn't want to either. So he uses me as an excuse. He's like, my wife would she'd leave me if I grew a mustache. I don't need my husband to look like my dad. It's like, oh God, no.
It's not a good look. I always say when my husband does like mustache March and then no shave November, and then he did have it for a few days on leave, and I'm like, fine, if you want to grow a mustache out, I'm just not going to shave. So
Yeah, go for that. I don't mind a goatee. I don't mind a little bit of funny things here and there if you're away from work for a while. But the mustache is the creepiest.
Yes.
Why do they have to pick
really
the creepiest facial hair?
100%.
And I don't think anyone can really pull it off. And I remember when I went to back home this past month, and I was at the base gym, and literally everyone, and I was going on base, everyone had a mustache, and I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't look good. It's not. No, that's not going to make the girl swoon.
It's funny too, because like all my civilian friends, they're like, oh my gosh, the military guys look like this, and I'm like, no, they don't.
They don't.
Like, this is not what they look like. I was like, no, don't go with that.
So,
too funny.
Anyway, we will end on that note. Before we go, though, where can everyone find you, Ashley?
Anywhere social media is sold. Oh my goodness. If there was social media on the moon, I'd be putting videos there. I'm everywhere at Ash Gutermuth or AshleyGutermuth.com. I also want to come to your bases, and I want to do stand up there. So if you can harass any of your MWR people or your FSS people or Armed Forces Entertainment, any of those people, I will come out. I want to come to remote places and do comedy. So
maybe I will harass my MWR people up at
Houghton
or
that'd be so cool.
Or Milden Hall.
Just today, I got my Global Traveler card, so I can breeze through customs now.
I wish I could.
You can do it from there.
He can.
It took me months to get it, and then I had to go to an appointment, but it's worth it.
Funny quick story though before we end. That reminds me, when we first came to England, he took the orders, and like one of the kids that I had, and the guy was like, what are your, he literally just went through customs and then left. And
you?
I mean, he was a couple yards away, but because he was like he's like, well, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I'm moving here with my husband's orders. He's like, well, where's your husband? I'm like, he already went through. He was like, you're supposed to do this together. I need the order. I'm like, oh.
I'm so sorry. Don't
we're like nuts. We hadn't slept. I was like, I was calling my husband, like, you need to come back. You need to come back. I need to get into the country too.
Help. Oh my goodness.
That's all the joys. Anyway, thank you again. This was so fun. Yeah, I hope to have you on again. And I honestly am going to be like looking out for your boot camp debut.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow. I want to see that.
I can't wait. It's gonna be fun.
I'm gonna try and get you out here to England. And hopefully I can meet you in person.
Awesome. Sounds great. Can't wait. Thank you for having me, and I hope to talk to you guys again soon.
All right. Bye, Ashley.
Bye-bye.
Bye.